Ooh, you killed him. Hello dear viewers, I warmly welcome you to a new episode. I'm almost 100% sure that at least a small part of my viewers, meaning some of you, know the channel called Brave Wilderness. It's a channel that's actually very, very popular, where the main character, Coyote Peterson, well, how should I put it, lets himself get bitten by various animals. And there's also a series dedicated to various hymenopterans, and among other things, this series was created to check if the Schmidt scale, the Schmidt pain scale, actually makes any sense.
It does make some sense. It does make some sense.
And the second reason is, of course, to get views and make a lot of money on YouTube, which actually worked out, judging by how many views this video has, how many views these videos have. And today on the screen we have an episode about the famous tarantula hawk, which is a wasp from the Pompilidae family, which in Polish would be the family of spider wasps, and it hunts tarantulas, right? It hunts tarantulas, those big hairy spiders that I have here on my right and on my left. But so that this episode isn't so bland, you know, just a static shot, me sitting, talking, copying, and pasting from that other channel, because generally that's under fair use, but it would be a long quote, so just talking, blah, blah. I thought that since, as one of the few people in Poland, I have the opportunity, I'll show you up close just such a wasp, or actually a cousin of this wasp, a so-called wasp in quotes, which actually stings. Coyote Peterson will soon be writhing in pain. Let's begin.
It's the grand finale. On my quest to find the most painful sting in the insect kingdom, the tarantula hawk is definitely the last act. And right now, Mark is shooting B-roll of it, and boy, it does not look happy.
Well, no wonder it doesn't look happy, since they locked it in a glass container. But seriously, just to introduce you to the topic, and so you know what he's dealing with. Listen, this is of course what's called a tarantula hawk, in this case a wasp from the Pepsis genus. The related genus Hemipepses inhabits a slightly different region. However, this is North America, and judging by the species, it's probably called Pepsis tisbi. It doesn't have a Polish name, so there's no way to translate it, but it has an interesting relationship that I'll tell you about later. So this hymenopteran is classified as if it's in second place on the entire Schmidt pain index, right? Above it, there's only Paraponera clavata, the so-called bullet ant. And from what I've heard, since I haven't had the dubious pleasure of being stung by such a hymenopteran myself, because they don't occur here, I've heard that it really hurts, like seriously hurts. These stings are very painful. Let's move on. Yeah, I can believe that it really sounds like that. You know, large insects have large wings, and the Pepsi species, which are these tarantula hawks, or whatever you want to call them, they have a very, very muscular thorax, so they can fly quickly and gracefully.
I have to say that the sting of the tarantula hawk is number 2 on the insect sting pain index.
That's right, he's obviously talking about the Schmidt pain index, right?
It's said to cause paralysis for up to 5 minutes, where all you can do is scream.
So I tried to figure out where they record it, but judging by the species, I would guess the southwestern United States. I'm not sure if it's in the description, as I haven't checked. We'll see. But judging by the landscape, it fits too, right?
Is everyone ready? Yes, I'm ready.
All right, because this is basically an insert for the beginning, blah, 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 blah. Here's the intro. Aha, here he's talking about being bitten by an alligator, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. There were leeches. Ah, exactly. See? What just bit him now is a female, which is a velvet ant. That's also a velvet ant from the Mutilidae family. And we'll talk about that too, because don't think that just because, you know, he's filming somewhere in the States, somewhere in North America, and he has those insects there, like the tarantula hawk, that we don't have their equivalents in Poland, right? Yes, of course there are. They're smaller. Blah, 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 blah. Ah, yes. There was a turtle, a scorpion, and an alligator. There was a solifuge. Heavy stuff. Where are we here? Exactly. So I was right. We're in Arizona. That's right. On Sonoran Desert. Cool. It's all good. Oh, and here the guy is hunting. Oh. He's already yelling. What's up with him this time? What's going on? He stabbed himself on a cactus. Dry cactuses, sparse vegetation, and these big flying navy blue and black creatures. And he caught it. Nice. It's in the net. Collar cactus. I don't know what that means, but I'll check it later. And now maybe let's talk about what I have here, because he said this is the Pepsi's Tisbe, which is the largest wasp in the United States. And it's really quite big, but this one is bigger. This is Pepsi's Heroes. It's the largest wasp in the entire Pompilidae family, which is the spider wasp family. And maybe something about the family itself, because it's explained here. But I'll explain it to you a bit differently, mainly in Polish. So, the Pompilidae family, also known as, I don't know, spider hunters, I've heard that too, or spider wasps, is generally a family of mostly solitary wasps that, for the most part, feed on spiders, specifically paralyzed spiders. And maybe I wasn't precise enough here, because adult individuals also feed on nectar, while spiders are a very important part of their entire development, as spiders provide food for the larvae of these wasps. So how does this actually happen? It happens like this. Adult females, because of course only females hunt spiders, not males, hunt spiders. And in Poland we also have such wasps. Of course, smaller ones, you know. They're not insects of that caliber, right? In Poland, spider wasps from the Pompilidae family can be found, which also hunt native Polish spiders. Interestingly, the entire Pompilidae family basically hunts almost all possible types of spiders. Seriously. They hunt tarantulas, jumping spiders, and even Brazilian wandering spiders. They hunt spiders from the Lycosidae family, which are those tarantula-like ones. So they hunt a very, very, very wide range of spiders. And what's even more interesting is that individual species have chosen only a narrow group of spiders. It's not that every spider wasp from this family hunts everything. Each species has specialized in a certain small group of spiders. And once they find such a spider, what then? They have to fight with that spider. These spider wasps are clever. For tarantulas, like the ones I have here, they try to confuse the spider a bit, because tarantulas are very sensitive to air movements. They're practically blind, practically deaf, and they don't really understand much, so the only thing they rely on is their sense of touch. And they simply feel and detect vibrations in the air. As you observed, when the wasp flaps its wings, it creates air movement that disorients the spider. And then it goes for the main part, which is trying to sting it, right? That's the program's main purpose. Once a wasp from the Pepsi's genus stings it, well, that's it. The spider has lost. Although, for example, in the case of Brazilian wandering spiders, it often happens that the spider wins the fight with the wasp, and then the wasp gets eaten. That can obviously happen too. What's next? Once the wasp... Okay, I'll just say wasp. Technically, it's not a wasp, as it doesn't belong to the Vespidae family, like Dolichowespula or Vespula, but let's just call it that. Wasp. If this wasp stings the spider will be paralyzed this way. And now, depending on the size of the spider, she either digs a burrow herself or, uses a burrow she found, for example. Sometimes it happens that she uses the spider's own burrow, which is really bold, that a wasp does something like that. She drags the spider in there, and then some really gruesome things happen because the wasp has to lay an egg on the spider. Remember, the spider remains alive throughout the process. The wasp then exits the burrow and conceals the entrance by burying it. The egg stays inside, of course, with the live spider, just paralyzed. After some time, a larva hatches from the egg, which has 6 development stages, if I recall correctly. The 6th stage is already the pupa, correct? So it also grows through the molting process, just like butterfly caterpillars, just like spiders. And what happens next? And listen, what's terrible and gruesome is that this larva eats the spider. Well, it's pretty obvious that the wasp paralyzes the spider, so it becomes food for its larva. But what's really terrible is that the larva eats the spider alive. What's more, this larva is clever enough to spare the spider's vital organs, like the nervous system, the respiratory system, and so on, right? So the spider has to stay alive as long as possible, so it doesn't start to rot, because if it rots, then the larva won't have anything to eat and it'll die. So you have to manage it somehow. Maybe let's get back to watching the movie and then we'll finish up later.
It's neither a tarantula nor a hawk. But like a hawk, they hunt for tarantulas. We'll tell them where a tarantula's burrow exists.
Oh, and that spider they showed, it's not random. That's an interesting fact. That spider, I suspect it's from the Aphonopelma genus. But what I mean is it's an adult male. And very often these wasps hunt specifically for adult males. Why? That's because they try not to hunt spiders that are near their burrows, since then there's a higher chance they'll lose the fight and the spider will manage to escape into its burrow. The wasp won't go into the spider's burrow because it would get eaten. There's no room to maneuver. That's why they look for adult males, because adult males simply go wandering in search of females. Clever, isn't it? That's really clever.
And go down into the burrow. They will use their front arms to tempt that tarantula.
Alright, here's the hunting method exactly. This is basically everything that I described to you. Another interesting fact. If this is indeed the species, meaning Pepsi with Thisbe, then a fantastic fun fact is that the size, and not only the size, but also the gender of these individuals, depends on the mass of the potential spider that the female provides to the larva, right? If a female wasp catches a large spider, the larva will grow big, resulting in a large wasp emerging. If the female, on the other hand, catches a small spider, then that spider won't provide as much food for the larva, so the larva will be smaller and a smaller wasp will emerge, probably a male, because males are usually smaller. Let's continue watching. No. Alright, I see that he caught her somehow. Enough with the nonsense, let's get to the stinging. Oh, and actually what I can also show you is that these hymenopterans have pretty powerful mandibles, right? So they can also generally bite, but probably not very hard.
I am ready. Here we go. I'm Kayat Peterson, and I'm about to enter the sting zone with the tarantula hawk. 1, 2, 3.
He's writhing in pain. Here he's also writhing in pain, but his forearm is swollen. I mean, don't take away from him that it must have hurt like hell, because I'm sure of that. If he really got stung that badly, it hurt like hell. However, it seems to me, and I also kind of sense it from the comments under this video, that there's a bit of acting added here. I'd likely scream my head off if stung, that's just how I am. However, I think rolling around on the ground like that can be controlled, but who am I to judge? After all, he was the one stung, not me. However, I think a tiny bit of acting was applied here. Well, I'm not surprised that the guy is writhing in pain and groaning because... Yeah. That's rough. No. Blah, 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 blah. They released the wasp. Well, I'm not letting this one go because it's dead. But he survived, smiling, smiling. Millions of views. How many millions of views does he have there? 60. Tons of views. I wish I had 60 million views. Anyway. Here's something else, blah, blah, blah. Phenomenal, listen. So yes, it got stung. We know that a sting hurts. So now I think during the video I already showed you up close what this large wasp looks like. Let's admire it for a moment longer. What you see here, as I said, is Pepsi's heroes. Additionally, these two wasps below are its cousins, but from a slightly different genus, the one I already mentioned, Hemipepsis. Here on the left we have Hemipepsis orumicans. This is a wasp from Vietnam. And the one on the right, my right, and probably yours too, is a wasp that to this day I can't identify. and it's some unidentified species from the Philippines. These wasps are common in the Philippines, so identifying this one might be difficult. Check out this enormous wasp. As you can see, it's massive. It's definitely among the top 3, possibly top 2 largest wasps in the world. There are even bigger specimens of the same species out there. This isn't the largest individual known. So what you see is a beautiful navy blue and black body, kind of shiny. It has huge mandibles. It has, unfortunately I couldn't get the stinger out, so I won't be able to show you what kind of stinger it has. I'll show you the stinger on the example of this unidentified spider wasp from the Philippines. We also have big, shiny, actually kind of brown wings. So the spider wasp itself is beautiful, it's terrifying, and it definitely wasn't one of the cheapest either. But anyway, let me know if you like this kind of video format. I mean, commentary, watching something and commenting in Polish, showing some ugly or pretty bugs, and of course talking about interesting facts that appear in the video we're watching. Is that something interesting for you? If so, we'll continue this series with this kind of commentary and narration. In the meantime, I'll say goodbye to you and I'll see you in the next videos. Yes, in the next videos. Bye.